It looks like people are starting to join. We'll just give people 2 or 3 minutes and get started in order to respect people's time at about 6:03.
Sounds good.
So we'll give it about another minute before we get started, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. It looks like our number has stabilized. We might have more people join in, but in order to respect people's time, we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the City of San Jose and the Department of Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, I'd like to welcome you to the community meeting for the reconstruction of Columbus Park. My name is Heidi Pacheco, and I'm the project manager on the capital team for the Department of Parks. Joining us today, we have a whole team of people that have been working hard on this project. We have staff from Parks Maintenance, from Public Works, and our design consultant, RRM Design Group as well. We'll get started with reviewing tonight's agenda. First, as part of the welcome, I'll go over Zoom tools that are available to everybody, and then I'll give a quick project introduction and background. Then I'll hand it over to the consultant for their project presentation. And we'll follow that with Q&A. And finally, I'll wrap up with next steps, which will include the tentative project schedule and the link to the survey, a little bit of information on that. Next slide, please. So just in case you're new to Zoom, I'd like to show you the functions that are available as part of this webinar. So these icons should be visible at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A button. If you click on that, you will be able to submit a question in writing. You can type that in. You can also click on the raise hand button. And if you do that, you'll alert us to know that you have a question and you'd like to be called on. We're going to respond to both formats of questions during the Q&A portion of our agenda, and we'll alternate between the questions that come in electronically and the raise hand feature. And then lastly, if you would like to follow along with an automated transcription of the presentation, you can click on the live transcript button. And please note that the meeting is being recorded and everyone is acknowledging that as they are accepting and entering this webinar. Next slide, please. So I'll start with the introduction and background. Our sites, Columbus 1 and Columbus 2 Park is located here, right here in the middle in this yellow area. And we're surrounded by, to the south, we have the Rotary Play Garden here. We have Guadalupe Gardens surrounding the entire park. As part of this conceptual plan, we will be integrating both sites, Columbus 1 and Columbus 2. And this capital project is being funded by the Measure P bond initiative that was approved by voters in the year 2000. This will be the last project to be funded under Measure P. In 2019, City Council actually approved that we use that remaining funding to build the here at Columbus Park. And while Measure P funding does dictate some of the the majority of the major design features in this park. There's also opportunities for input on the design details and the central paseo of this park. And tonight we really want to look towards the future and focus on the park. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our design consultant to get started on the project presentation.
Thank you, Heidi, for the introduction. My name is Julian Simeone from RRM Design Group. Zooming in even further, we can see that the two fields are currently separated by Spring Street. Our project will permanently close, vacate Spring Street, allowing for that area to be integrated into the park design. Currently, the park is used for softball, horseshoe, and basketball. Columbus Park is located north of West Taylor Street and south of the airport. This slide and the following slide show photos of the existing conditions at Columbus Park. As you can see, the existing conditions and amenities are in a pretty dated state and fairly dilapidated. Here we have the proposed master plan. The project site is approximately 12.5 acres. And to help orientate you, the park is north of West Taylor Street, which comes from downtown, and the other surrounding streets are Walnut Street to the west, Asprey Street to the north, and Irene Street to the east. I'm just going to say a few words about what is in the park. In the left area, there'll be a block of synthetic grass with soccer and softball, and then we will have the same on the right-hand side. We'll have a central paseo, family gathering areas, playground, and sports courts. We'll talk a little bit in some more detail shortly about the central paseo. We'll also have 21 horseshoe courts in the top middle area of the park. And for parking, angled street parking is proposed along Walnut Street, Asprey Street, and Irene Street. And as you can see on the right, there is also additional overflow parking provided. I'll hand over to Jeff.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Ferber, and we've got a series of slides now that follow this slide that are a lot more easy to understand. They're kind of perspective sketches. This is the last plan view slide. Purpose of this slide is to let you know that about 75% of the park site are the two synthetic field areas that have the athletic fields. As Julian mentioned, the softball fields, which you can see in the corners of the fields. And then each side of the park, the east and the west, has an adult soccer field running north and east and west, and then two youth soccer fields overlaying the adult field, and they run north and south. And then the additional point is that there's a perimeter path that goes around the entire park, and the park is fenced, and you'll see that in the upcoming sketches. So we're going to move on to a series of perspective sketches now and kind of give you a kind of a view and a story for how the park was going to work and what it will feel like. So in this slide, we're sort of hovering over in the drone above West Taylor Street, looking into the park, sort of in the direction of the airport. And I'm going to kind of narrate this slide left to right. On the left side, you'll see the large turf area that's going to have the soccer fields and the softball field. You can see that it is fenced. In the center, we're calling this the Paseo or Promenade. This is the current Spring Street, which will be closed and turned into this sort of plaza feature. It's for pedestrians. It will have access for emergency vehicles, but it's designed to be a pedestrian space. As we move to the right, you can see pickleball courts. There are 4 of them. And then adjacent to that is a foosball court, which is a hard court soccer facility that also will have basketball hoops integrated into it. On the right side of that is the other synthetic area. The arrows in each of these slides are really giving you a hint as to where we're going next. So the next slide is going to be turning, and you're going to be looking over the central area. Okay, Julian.
Uh, Here you can see the central common area and surrounds. This is the hub of the park. Park visitors have a variety of experiences available. There is kids soccer, which is a high quality field like the adult fields, but mini size for kids. There is a playground for older and younger kids. Various informal seating options and picnic areas are also included. There is a restroom that is readily accessible for park users. The restroom is shown here in the top left of the slide. To the right, you can see the horseshoe courts. We know in San Jose can be very warm. We have made shade a priority in the design and have included many large shade trees. A variety of seating has been selected, and where possible, seats have been located in the shade. For example, the Adirondack chairs you can see over here to the left. And then looking at this, the yellow arrow, that's where we're going to look from for the next slide. So in this view, at the bottom of the image, you can see the Adirondack chairs again. These are for informal social activities and viewing of the play area. The central area is in the middle of a variety of sports activities, for example, soccer, softball fields, horseshoe courts, and sports courts. We show you two large shade structures, which will provide relief from the sun and also have picnic tables underneath. The restroom shown here on the left is located with visibility and safety in mind. The location also allows for convenient access from the different areas of the park. So looking at the yellow arrow, that's where the next slide is going to look from, which it looks from the pickleball courts. So here you can see the playground. There's several picnic tables have been located here, which is complementary to gathering, watching kids play, or sports players getting together before or after games. The playground design is preliminary and is to be developed further. The future design will cater for different age groups and have a variety of play experiences and challenges to keep kids interested, engaged, and excited to come back. And then here again, here's another yellow arrow. We'll be looking back from Asbury Street.
Okay, so now we are sort of hovering over Asbury Street, and I want to talk a little bit more about the Paseo area and how it works and why it is the size that it is. So the pedestrian area that goes in between the soccer field that you see on the right and the horseshoes on the left and the other part of the soccer complex that has also the softball fields on it is the width of Spring Street today largely. And the purpose of that is that there are a lot of existing utilities and infrastructure under Spring Street, and it's a practical way to incorporate those utilities and the infrastructure that are already there into the park. It also provides a great opportunity for us to design a park that has an activated pedestrian space that makes going between games and to the common facilities very comfortable, very sort of friendly. It uses the guidelines from the Guadalupe Park River Master Plan, which the city has for the entire area, so it ties into that. So you can see here, there's an entry monument sign on the left. You can see the sidewalk that runs along Asbury Street that accesses all the angled parking that surrounds the park. The fencing shows up prominently in this sketch. You can see there's a perimeter fence that goes around the park. It's a little bit taller, provides good security, and there will be gates that slide across the openings to the promenade at night. So the park will be closed, after a certain time. So just let you take this in for a second. You can see the horseshoe courts really well. The next slide is going to kind of go down onto the ground. And you can see, we're depicting this with joggers and people riding their bikes through. So this park may be visited by people that are coming on a run or a bike ride. They may be coming to watch a soccer match or a softball game. And the space in between is designed to be very much for the people that come to participate as well as the spectators. And people that don't even come to participate in the sport. Somebody might come just to play a game, or they might be part of a horseshoe tournament. They might bring their child to the playground or to play on the mini soccer field. In this sketch, you'll notice on the right, there's these kind of triangular seating arrangements. We're trying to introduce a variety of seating arrangements so that it's not just like a traditional park with traditional benches. It'll have many different types of seating so that it's flexible, it's creative, and it kind of ties into the urban environment of San Jose. Okay, so the key term here is activation and designing a park that is designed to be safe. So when you come to the park at all the different hours that it's open, every space in the park has something going on. There are no kind of hidden areas. There's no kind of space that doesn't have something going on, whether it's seating, some games that Julian's going to talk about, picnicking, tournaments, whatever it may be. Activation is the key. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide, which is turning to the left.
Okay, this close-up image shows the detail of the North Paseo area. The bench seats and the seat walls provide really good opportunities to pause, meet with people, or watch the cornhole games and the horseshoe games beyond the fence. Within the horseshoe court area, you can see there is a shade structure with seating options for park users. And again, considering the hot or warm temperatures in San Jose, we've included multiple shade trees that should provide a really good level of shade throughout the whole Paseo. Here we go. This is the further down on the central Paseo. We're going to stroll down to the middle of the Paseo and heading down to where we started. Here you can see the restroom on the left and the pickleball behind. The restroom is to have a contemporary design and potentially modern self-cleaning technology. The city is really striving for a rich and unique palette of seating options. The goal is that the seating will enhance the space and park experience for everyone who uses the park. The next slide is looking back towards the Paseo from the West Taylor Street side.
So whether it was those kind of large pebbles that you might find on a beach or in a river, the idea behind the different seating arrangements is that teenagers and younger kids, adults, seniors, whoever comes there, there's somewhere comfortable to sit. There's different heights of seating. There's different textures in the seating. If you look in this sketch on the right, which is Jillian said, now we're back to where we started. This is the last perspective sketch. And we're on the ground, West Taylor, looking towards the other side of the park in the direction of the airport. Again, with the seat walls, you can see when you come into the park, it's open. The gates slide all the way open. So the entire Paseo looks open. It's not just a small pedestrian gate that you walk through. It'll feel very open and welcoming. And as you get in, you can see on the left and the right, the fencing's lower. Wherever the fencing doesn't need to be higher for stopping, a ball behind a soccer goal, for example, it'll be open so that people could walk up there, lean against it, watch a practice, watch a game. And at the same time, there's some enclosure. So there's some division of the space. Looking kind of into the middle ground of the sketch, you'll see what looks kind of like ping pong tables. And then if you look in the upper right, there's a photograph of two young boys playing what's called tech ball. And it's like a ping pong table. You can see that it's curved. It's played like ping pong, but they don't use their hands. Soccer players know head, feet, thighs, any other part of the body. It's popular as an international game, and it's being introduced more and more here in America. It's a great, fun thing to do. Informally, teams can use it for training. It's another way to activate this pedestrian space. To the right in the sketch, you can see the people sitting on this kind of right below the yellow arrow. There's kind of step seating area. That is so that people can sit and look either direction. Pickleball is super popular. I'm sure most people probably know that it's one of the fastest growing sports. And we anticipate a lot of people using the courts. The city knows that there's a high demand for them. And it's a very social game. So the interaction between the pickleball court area and the promenade will be very, very strong. Then just look out in the distance, you can see there's a lot going on there. And shade trees that Julian mentioned. We should mention that they won't be this big when they're planted, but there will be a species planted that grows relatively quickly. And we're showing these kind of like, these are probably 5, 6, 7 years old at this point. But they're not 40-year-old trees as shown in the sketch, but they're not brand new, just to give you a little perspective. So I think we are now going to move on to our question and discussion session, which Heidi's going to be the facilitator, and we'll be taking questions, and then Heidi will direct somebody to answer each one.
Okay, so I have my first raised hand from Vic G. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay. Hi, yeah, Vic Giacalone is my name. I'm speaking from the perspective of having been on the board and actually the president of the board of the nonprofit at the time that the master plan was developed. We were called the Friends of the Guadalupe River Park and Gardens. Now it's called the Guadalupe Conservancy. But in any event, I'm wondering how you've gotten around closing Spring Street when it's very predominantly left, going all the way from Taylor to Heading in the master plan. You mentioned earlier, Jeff, that it's in conformance, but it's not.
I'm sorry, Vic, I didn't hear the end of the question. You said you were talking about Spring Street, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of it.
Yeah, well, the master plan was developed in 2002 to 2004, something like that, and approved by the city council at the time. And the master plan, which I have a copy in my office, which I'm not there right now, very specifically shows Spring Street continuous from Taylor to Heading. It's a very important north-south or south-north street for people coming off of 87 transitioning to 17 because there's no direct connection otherwise. So I'm wondering how you've managed to avoid conforming with the master plan.
Chris, I don't know if you wanted to add anything into that.
Yeah, right now, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Master DeGaza. I'm the project manager for the public works side of things, so the construction side. Right now, Spring Street is not officially closed or will be officially closed for quite some time. We're looking to temporarily close it right now. And so that's the route we're taking. And so it's still a work in progress. As you know, it's not an easy thing to close a street in San Jose. And so that's what we're looking into right now.
Well, I know, but again, the master plan, it was developed by a lot of great minds in the city. Cindy Chavez is on the board, Ken Yeager, so forth and so on. And I was involved to a small extent. And I'm wondering how you can totally ignore the master plan. You're talking about temporarily closing it now. It looks like the plan that Jeff went over shows Spring Street still open from Ashbury to Heading. Is that not going to happen now? You're saying you're going to close the whole street off?
Mr. Giacalone, this is Heidi Pacheco, project manager for the Parks Department. I wonder if you would be able, if we could, coordinate offline and you could send me the document that you're referring to. I think the master plan that we've seen does call for the closure of Spring Street all the way to Heading. So I just want to make sure we're looking at the same document.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that. But sure, I can easily email you a copy of the master plan that that I thought was still in force. But again, I love the idea of what you've portrayed with the plans. I mean, my office is kitty corner. I'm on Walnut Street, actually, right off of Taylor, and I run in the park 2-3 times a day, or a week, I should say. So I want the park to be improved, and that's why I got on the Guadalupe board years ago. But you can't ignore the fact that there's a lot of people that drive their cars on that street, and it needs to link to, Taylor needs to link to Heading somehow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment, and we'll work with you to resolve that.
Thank you, Vic.
Okay, so my next raised hand is from from Bob Lefever.
Good evening, everybody. I am a member of it's a senior softball club called the Vintage Softball Club in San Jose. And we played at Columbus Park for many, many years until the park really got into bad shape. Last year, I talked to some of the folks at the park department, and they were interested in at least cleaning the park up a little bit so we could play on it. We play in a number of the San Jose parks during the week, and being able to play at a new Columbus Park would certainly appeal to us. But, and I'm sure you're probably going to talk about this sometime tonight, but there appears to be an 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that's the homeless. What are the plans for expediting that so that the park can be built?
Thank you, Mr. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mispronounce your name. I understand your concern. We absolutely recognize that there's a lot of issues, surrounding the unhoused and social issues in and around the park. There is a whole separate team in our department, the Beautify SJ team, that is currently working on managing abatement and homelessness issues. And I'm certainly not an expert in this area, but I know our department is taking a lead on a citywide encampment management strategy plan. And our project, is on a construction schedule, right? Or on a project schedule. And so construction is out a little bit. It's about 2 years out before we would begin construction. And so, we still have quite some time to coordinate with other city departments and address that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have another raised hand from Joe Salvato. Please go ahead and talk.
Hi there. Thank you for this presentation and all your work on this project. I worked with the Guadalupe Conservancy for 10 years this year, so I've seen the park kind of ebb and flow over the years, and went through Bellarmine next door. I know the sports teams used it for practice often, so I'm looking forward to the revitalization. I love how you integrated all the different recreational uses into the space. I thought it was really creative. And I had a couple questions on what your thoughts are around connectivity with the greater River Park and Gardens. Like the Paseo, I think is awesome, and I know that pulls in some of the design guidelines for the gardens area. And I was curious, are you looking at any enhancements as well to the connection across Taylor Street to the rest of the Heritage Rose Garden and the gardens further south? Or there thinking there's opportunity maybe to enhance that crosswalk to encourage folks to continue through the Paseo across the street further south, and similarly to come out of the Paseo on the north end on Asbury and maybe connect back to the trails over near Irene Street. So I was curious about that. And then also, are there any plans to enhance and revitalize the Taylor Street Rock Garden that follows the sidewalk along Taylor Street on the southern edge of the park, or will that fall outside the scope of this project?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the second part? Did you say, well, I think it was captured, maybe the rock garden. I'm not familiar with the rock garden at all, but I can certainly follow up on that.
Oh, sure.
And I agree, there's definitely opportunities to enhance connection, and that would be something that we would, think is a great idea. We would certainly have to coordinate that with the Department of Transportation, the public improvements, and, it's just currently not, we haven't gotten to that point. Is there something else you want to add on that, Chris or Nicole?
Yeah, I could add on to that a little bit. Right now, the way that we're looking at potentially closing Spring Street off, we will have to address that crosswalk right now so that you can no longer make that U-turn or that turn onto Spring Street from there. And with that, we can easily work to enhance that crosswalk to the other side over to the gardens. Along Irene Street near where they show the overall new overflow parking lot, there will be a connection on that side as well to the Guadalupe River Trail. That's the plan there, is to provide a connection there as well. And then your third question about the rock garden in the front, unfortunately, or fortunately, we are going to remove that to expand as much as we can on our site. So we will incorporate a stormwater controls within our site itself, and that rock garden and bridge and a few other items will go away.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another raised hand from Clarissa Clark. Go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So the park right now is in really poor condition, as I'm sure you're all aware. The city has not been maintaining it. In addition to all the encampments that are there, trash cans aren't empty, the bathrooms aren't clean, grass isn't mowed. The park plans that you showed look amazing, but it looks like it's a lot more to maintain even than what we have now. So what's the plan for the long term, keeping after this if the current setup is too much for the city to handle?
Carissa, thank you for that question. I think I can address that pretty quickly. So the majority of our site will be artificial turf, which will require very little maintenance, just some care over time, maybe quarterly on that. And then the majority of the rest of the site is going to be trees with no ground cover, no shrubs. And the only real plant area that will have to be maintained is probably a bioretention area that is required by the state to treat any stormwater on the site. So there will be a lot less. There will be no mowing of the site. There will be no ground squirrels that cause a lot of problems that happen out there. So we're looking at that throughout the site to make sure that the maintenance is very low.
Okay, thank you. And then what's the plan to prevent encampments going forward? Will this park be staffed? I know you mentioned there'll be a gate that's locked at night, but are you planning to staff it the same way the Rotary Play Garden is staffed?
We are currently not planning to staff it that way. I don't know that we have finalized that plan yet. But this will certainly have more eyes on it because it is a sports field and the areas will be reservable. So we'll need to work together with our maintenance team to develop that plan. Is there anything you want to add to that, Nicole?
All I would do, Heidi, I'm Nicole Burnham, a Deputy Director with Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I would just reinforce what Heidi said, that through the project development and design, we'll work with park maintenance and figure out what the appropriate staffing model is for this space and help them, with the proper documentation to get the funding that we need from the budget office to be able to help them with that. So that I think what Heidi answered was spot on.
Okay, so I did see a raised hand from Bob and Kathleen McCartney, and then it went down. Do you guys still have a question?
Hi there. I'm interested in finding where I can go to find technical specs for the sports fields. Like I'm interested in sort of the details of the dimensions and how much sort of safety runoff outside the lines there is. And second, specs about the playing surface. So I'm not really interested in roll characteristics, but I am interested in impact absorbance. So you don't have to answer that in this forum, but is that available somewhere?
I can speak to that, Bob. Thanks for that question. Well, actually, RRM can probably speak to the actual dimensions and the runoff that's out there right now. But the playing surface itself has yet to be determined. But we are looking at putting a performance pad underneath it to make sure that there's no, we're in the Gmax factor that's appropriate. So that's the plan for it now. But we have not chosen the actual company that will be providing the surfacing yet.
Julian, do you want to go over the dimensions?
Yeah, so as you can see on this slide, we've allowed for 2 full-size adult soccer fields to San Jose standards and 4 total youth soccer fields. The adult fields are 360 by 225. The youth soccer fields are 300 by 175. And then around in between the youth soccer fields, there's a 10-foot offset. And then around the edges, it varies. At the ends, we have more space at the ends of the adult fields and the ends of the youth fields. It's like, 12 feet and 17 feet. And then on the sides of the youth field, we have like 17 and a half feet and, 20 feet. So at the moment, we've laid out these fields in real size with actual dimensions and actual line marking.
Okay, so we no longer have any more raised hands or any more questions in the Q&A section.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next slide, and then if there's any other questions afterwards, we can go back to that. So for next steps, we'll cover the tentative project schedule. So we're having the first community meeting today and looking for feedback and understanding concerns and opportunities at the site. Moving forward between now and next spring, we'll complete the environmental review and the design, the final conceptual design development. And then we're targeting coming back and having a second community meeting in the spring. We'll share the final conceptual plan at that time, and again have more opportunities for fine-tuning that final conceptual design. Then we'll move on to construction documents, and those are estimated to be completed by next fall of 2022. And then starting construction summer of 2023, so about 2 years from now, and targeting a park opening by the end of the year of 2024. And that is what we have in terms of our tentative construction project schedule. We can yep, go ahead. So the next slide is really just the link to the survey monkey that we have created for the project. So the survey link is active as of now. You can either click on the link, or after this meeting, you should be directed. You should get a pop-up on your device or computer that leads you directly to the survey. You can also scan the QR code with your phone. In the survey, the survey is for anyone that didn't get a chance to come to this meeting, and for all of you that came to this meeting also. We show you the conceptual plan. We ask you for your preferences on some of the design details, and also ask you to help us collect some data to help serve park users. We'd really appreciate it if you can fill out that survey, and we will share the results of that survey at the next community meeting as well, and that'll help inform the design details and final conceptual plan that we come back with. At this time, I'd like to open it up if there's any other questions that we can address.
Yeah, so I do have a raised hand from an S, but there are 2 S's in the attendees. So if you ask to talk, or if you raised your hand, go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a question posted in the Q&A from Margaret Lee. Sorry if I missed this. Plans for bike parking as well.
Yes, absolutely. We will have plenty of bike parking located throughout. And you can see right here in this slide on the left-hand side of the promenade, we are showing some bike racks.
Okay, then I have another comment from Jason.
Cassie, it's Nicole. I just want to back up to S for a moment because I don't know if they realize they need to unmute themselves. I'm not sure. And I just want to make sure they didn't miss their opportunity to speak.
Yeah, so I click.
Oh, there they go. They're unmuted.
There they go. Okay.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I had thank you very much for giving me that second chance. I understand that there are different departments within PRNS, but I think that the issues are intertwined. So I feel like maybe both departments should have been here to give the answers, because the Olivia's team should have been here to answer the questions regarding the unhoused folks and what's happening with everyone at Spring Street and the sweep. And then your team should have been here, because you can't make up your mind about like, wow, this program sounds great. Oh, but I have no idea what's happening to all the unhoused people. Like, they kind of go together. At least to me, they do. I also wanted to raise the point of, it's not an abatement, it's a sweep. Abatement is a sanitized word that takes out all the emotion and the trauma of what's happening to people. People are being swept. It's their emotions, it's traumatic, it's painful. And so I just wanted to point that out, that, abatement is a much sanitized version of, and that's a word that people choose. So, so it's 2 years out. Do we have any guess on the cost? And then also, when somebody asks about how do we prevent the camps from starting up again, the easiest way to prevent camps from starting up again is working with our local leaders to provide actual housing that people can afford in San Jose. Just a thought. That's it.
Yeah. I'm actually going to jump in and address that one. So I appreciate the comment for sure. Our current condition at Columbus Park, actually within the park proper, we don't have a lot of homeless right now in the park. They are in all the areas surrounding it for sure. Which is part of why Beautify SJ isn't part of this specific distinct conversation right now. Also, the fact that we're 2 years away from needing, we will continue to work with them behind the scenes, right? And preparing for this project and preparing for construction. We will work with them to prepare the site. We will work with the housing department. All of that will come as we move along. Now, yes, the elephant in the room is that there is work that is going to happen along Spring Street in the areas surrounding Columbus Park over the next months. There is a plan that's been defined for that. The Beautify SJ team actually will be doing community outreach specifically about that, and specifically with those members of the community over the next couple of months. So, I think we as staff are all in all our various ways doing the best we can with the resources that we have available to care for the crisis and manage the crises that we have at hand, for sure. So I definitely appreciate the comment, but I wanted to make sure that we address that.
Okay, so no more raised hands, but I do have some questions here in the Q&A section. The first one is more of a statement rather than a question. It comes from Jason Sue, who is glad there are needed soccer fields and a pickleball, and 1 to pickleball. The next question comes from Russell Zelmar. I am a member of the San Jose Golden Eagles Horseshoe Club. Will a clubhouse be provided to hold tools and items we need to upkeep the horseshoe courts?
I can also answer that. Russell, yes, we do plan on providing you with something similar to what you had, maybe a little more robust than the last one. I know you guys had a shed that burned down And we're very sorry that that happened. So we are planning on providing right at the corner there. You can see right by the horseshoe courts, there was a maintenance and storage area for the entire site, but also you'll have access to one of those just for you guys.
Next question is from Joe Salvato. For the playground area, it would be awesome to integrate design features and equipment that complements the Rotary Play Garden further south and promotes visitation between the facilities.
Heidi, can I ask a follow-up on that?
Sure, go ahead.
I think by complementary, I'm assuming that means not the same, but different experience so that people could use both playgrounds and then go between them. Maybe that's just what I think we're hearing. I don't know if they want to clarify.
Yeah, I think Rotary is more of an all-inclusive playground type, and this one won't be an all-inclusive, but it certainly will be complementary to the adjacent site and adjacent playgrounds.
Another statement from S. Folks are parked all around Columbus, every street mentioned. Okay, so the next one from Joe Salvato, maybe features for ages over 12.
I think that's in reference to the playground.
Yeah, right now, most manufacturers do like 3 to 5 and 5 to 12 for playgrounds. That's why we're looking at adding some of the other features like tech ball, ping pong, and cornhole, and a few other features like that, so that the older kids will have something else to do. And I think looking at some of the features on the playground, I think the older kids will enjoy that playground as well. Yeah, here's some other features in the park as well.
So I have no more raised hands and no more questions in the Q&A section. Sorry, and two more just popped up really quick. So S is asking about a climbing wall in the playground.
Perhaps within the playground, there's playground certification requirements that have to be upheld, and we do have some climbing features in some parks, like Door Park has one. So we could add that as a feature without any problem.
Okay, so the next one is from Margaret Lee. Love the various seating types, which make for great placemaking, whether it be scheduled programming that PRNS will manage on the reservation back end.
I guess the answer would be I'm not sure if there will be programming, but that'll be part of the development of that we work through with the other divisions in our department. So certainly for the sports fields, the sports field will be on the reservation system for both soccer and softball.
Okay, one more question from S. Will there be concerts?
That's a great question. We have no idea at this time, the programming of the site overall, other than the sports facilities that we showed and a few features that are in there now. We haven't really thought about anything else like that.
Okay, no more questions or no more raised hands.
Thank you, Cassie. Well, if there are no additional questions, that brings us to the end of the presentation for the Columbus Park renovation project. I'd like to thank you for joining us today and really encourage you to go take the survey. The survey is designed to take under 5 minutes to complete, And you'll be able to provide us feedback on the conceptual plan, some of the park amenities, and tell us, you know, a little bit more about what excites you about this new project, and you know, what amenities you're going to be using here, and give us your preferences on some of those gaming options that we showed you. I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and with that, I'd like to say thank you.